Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
So I'm asking a question right now for anybody that wants to move their lives forward, their business forward. If somebody were to say to you, tell me about your brand, you yourself, your company, what's your brand? Would you be able to answer that question? Do you know what a brand is? Super important. If you want to succeed, you want to stand out, and we're going to work on your brand today. Actually, she's going to help us do that. And she is somebody who offers coaching, consulting, energy healing, works with a lot of women as well. Theresa Nutt is with us from yourdeepercalling.com. Welcome, Theresa. Good to see you again. How you doing?
Great to see you, Steve. I'm doing really well. The sun came out in California and I saw a double rainbow on my way into work today. So it doesn't get much better.
Haven't seen one of those in a while. And
either.
Every time I hear those two words, double rainbow, do you remember the video of the guy freaking out about the double rainbow?
Good remember. No, I forgot about it. Glad you brought it up.
That's all I think of. That's all. Whenever I hear double rainbow, I think of that guy. Might have been California. I'm not 100% sure. But the guy was free. And this is going back like 10 years ago. He's freaking out. Double rainbow, double rainbow. He should have harnessed that and turned that into his brand.
Right? Great.
That's how we equate him, doublerainbow.com, and there's Johnny, Jose, whatever his name is. But yeah, the brand is so important to differentiate between others in your line of work. Can we start there, like define brand, the overall view of it?
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks for bringing it up. And I have a unique take on brand, but I think before I get into that, I'll start with, right, our brand. I think part of where people struggle is it's both how we show up, right? Like even the background, which I only had blue, I couldn't figure out how to get my color on there. But right, if I was truly branding this, I would have my main color behind me. So it's everything visually that we communicate. It's the words we use, the topics we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the values by which we run our company. I think of Apple, such a clear brand, right? Like you say Apple, everybody knows that brand. If they don't, they're living under a rock because they make choices in their business about their values. They are funky and cutting edge, and their ads are going to be phenomenal because they're so well branded. So I think it's just communication on so many levels. And the thing I add is the energetic level of how you show up and sort of transmit who you truly are is that missing piece of what makes a brand really, really great, in my opinion.
Well said. And I'm just going to interject here. You don't have your brand color in the background because you were working and setting it up. However, blue is a good trust color. It's one of the best colors there are for trust. So I don't think you did
excellent.
Don't think you did wrong with that. And I'm never one to want to put boundaries on anything. But when we talk about our brand, it is good having those boundaries because once you overstep them on either side, you're deviating from what your brand is. Like, for example, let's say Apple did something that was totally out of character. Just, they started selling hamburgers. What the fuck is going on? That's not Apple. That's not the Apple I know. That's not my phone. That's not my iPad. What's happening? It would deviate from what they are. So you have to set those boundaries, whether they're going to be, a little flexible here and there. And that could be, your fun or fudge factor. It's got to be consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you saying that. And I think that's where, people even talking about things that are so in left field, like if Apple moved from technology to hamburgers, once you kind of go, huh?
Yeah.
So even just choosing, I think about branding in small and large ways, like people choosing 4 or 5 messages that they're really, really schooled on and start there and just consistently talk about it. Because one of the things in branding and marketing that I think a lot of people miss is like, it takes 14 times sometimes for people to hear you to truly know, like, and trust you. So it's not like one and done, which is what I think a lot of people assume. Oh, if I just have this really splashy, gorgeous ad, people are going to flock to my work. That's not really how it works, is it, Steve?
No, not at all. And yes, on the 14 and half that by about 7. And it still stands true, even over all the years, that it takes typically 7 impressions for somebody to take action. So they would have to see your message at least 7 times before they call you, before they message you, contact you. But before they do any of that, they have to trust you. And when we talk about brand, I also want to make sure that we make it clear we're talking about companies here, giving examples of Apple, but also your personal brand. Who are you? What do you stand for? Right?
Huge. Yeah, thanks for making that segue because I was going to say a lot of people I work with are solo entrepreneurs. And it's kind of like, I almost think, and I'm curious about your opinion on this, Steve, your brand is even more important when you are the one person in the company because everything you do, I feel like everything I do, how I show up in my day job, how I show up in the community, everywhere I go, every impression I'm making could be part of my branding if I were thoughtful about it. And so it's really important that I'm clear about who I am. And I think every great CEO has a really good personal brand. So whether you work in corporate or have your own business, a brand can help you so much. So I'm curious what your opinion is about that.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree. And it's also what you're known for.
Right.
I will tell you, I've been doing radio since I was 17 in the New York area. People know me for radio. That's what I'm associated with. I'm not the insurance guy. I'm not the car guy. I mean, I'm the radio guy, but I took that and turned that into a marketing company. And it's instant credibility as well because it's like, oh yeah, I used to listen to him, so I trust him, or I do listen to him, I trust him. It's what you're known for. You want to be the expert or the perception of the expert in your field. So you got to think about that. And if you are that insurance guy, what makes your brand different?
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think, Steve, one of the things that I'm struck by as you were talking about it, and I know this by heart, but it's good to talk about, is sort of people don't, or they take for granted maybe what makes them so unique, or the it factor, some might say, right? Is sort of like, I think for people, the reason why they miss it in their branding is it's so obvious. Like for me, I really care about the planet, so I make food choices based on that, and I probably buy cars based on that, and accept, right? Like we make choices based on that. So one of the little tips I'm going to give our audience today is start with really doing a little archaeology dig on yourself, right? Like take a look at what you naturally are drawn to, what you believe in, what matters to you, and build that into your branding because that's part of your it factor, right?
That's a great idea because you might not even realize it as you're sitting there, you're trying to come up with, well, who am I? What's my brand going to be? What am I all about? If you start looking at yourself from maybe a different lens, different camera angle, you might see those similarities. Like you said, you're somebody who cares about the environment. So that's one more thing that you stand for. You do a lot of charity work. Maybe that's another thing you stand for. All of those things are part of your brand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to interject how style fits into this. I'm curious what you'll think about this because I want to go there with people. We talked last week about the style work, and part
Yeah.
of what I help people do that's so interesting with branding is really look at what about my energy am I not communicating? For instance, right now I'm in a very business suit attire because I'm, in a business suit setting and I have to be. But if you were to see me on another day, I'd be in my Converse sneakers and my funky shirt, and I'd be pretty chill and everywhere in between. And all of us sort of have that vibe. And I think wardrobe can communicate so much about what I call the multifaceted parts of ourselves. That's what's really magnetic. It's not like if I just say, okay, this is my brand, no one's going to really be inspired by that. But there's so many pieces and parts to me. Like, did you know I'm from a wild, crazy family with 8 kids in it? And I love my big, wild family. It's like a big, fat Greek wedding when our family gets together, and I love it. So,
Hmm.
right, like those are all things that can help people to know the layers of who I am. And that's what's attractive, right?
Absolutely. And even when I look at you, and we only met recently, but even the visuals on your website, and I even said this, and we weren't even going to, I don't know, we're going to talk about branding. And that was last week. But the one thing I said was your website, yourdeepercalling.com, is very attractive, well laid out. The colors are consistent. They're even consistent with what you're wearing today, and probably if you had the moment to change up the background, whatever. But there is that consistency, and you are. I know you from that. Like I remember looking at your website, and even what you're wearing today emulates your website. And same thing, me, I'm casual. I'll be at a fundraising holiday dinner for the Girl Scouts in our area. I'm on the board right over there. I got, a jacket, a dress shirt, probably going to wear jeans, but darker ones because I don't want to be too stuffy. It's kind of a casual but business-like thing, the right kind of shoes. These all things kind of play in together, but you need to be mindful of them, as it's your brand. So let's say you're showing up for a holiday dinner fundraiser, whatever it might be. If you're not portraying yourself properly, you're not living an authentic self either. And would you agree that people pick up on that too if you're not being you?
I totally agree. And I think that's so you said it really well. It's kind of like you can have different outfits for different events. We're not saying dress the same all the time. I want to be
Sure.
really clear about that. But I do think I just get from you, Steve, like this, you have a very casual vibe, but there's no question in my mind. I pick up right away that you're pretty with it and pretty hip and you can get things done. So, right, like that's an energy you carry. So in certain settings, you want to accentuate that by wearing certain clothes, right? Depending on the setting. And so I think part of the work of the essence, the style essence work is really looking at who am I and what setting is it? And sometimes I think of some of the most iconic people. Lady Gaga comes to mind. I mean, she just is so unique in her perspective and so just authentic all the time. Depending on the setting, dresses a little differently, but she just goes all in. When you are not dressing for who you feel like you are on the inside, people can feel it. I think people are kind of like, get the man factor, right? When you're not totally aligned.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you put on a suit or you put on an outfit and it doesn't feel like you. You're not gonna act like you. And there are times where you might put on something that really fits well. Like you're feeling good about it. And that might accentuate who you really are. So that's the plus side of that. But I get the feeling, even from the last time that we talked, that you really do enjoy personal style and personal branding.
I do. Yeah. Yeah. And I think I just want to follow up on your comments in that I think people are all the time, we're always scanning our world, right? And so what we're wearing, two things besides just kind of broadcasting who we really are into the world, it also either fuels our energy or drains it. So if I'm wearing something that feels so not me, my energy is being drained. So then how engaging am I going to be in every interaction? How
Mm.
much am I going to be my full self? Probably not. So it's interesting that it kind of works both on the what's happening out there, but also internally at the same time.
They say if you're doing branding, even personally or even within a business, that you should have a mission statement. This is not necessarily your branding phrase or a
Right.
slogan, but if somebody were to ask you, Teresa, what would your mission statement be? If it was going to be a sentence, what do you think it would be?
One sentence. I get one. All right, here we go. My mission. Um, wow. I'm thinking about my vision, so I got to switch gears. One sentence. I would say my mission is to, uh, I'm changing my mind in the middle, Steve. This isn't good. Okay, I'm overthinking.
I,
I'm overthinking. Ah,
you know what it is? Here it is. I just ran into you in the proverbial elevator. Oh, Teresa, I heard about you. I saw your podcast. Oh, what exactly are you all about? Like, what's your goals? How do you help people? What do you do?
yeah. So I help women transform their relationship with style and their deeper knowing or essence so they can live their most fulfilling life.
I like that. You know what? Actually, that makes sense on the fly. That was good.
My vision kept getting stuck in my head. I couldn't get out of it.
Well, a lot of times you only got 15 seconds, as they say. So in the elevator, oh, that's what you do. Okay. And the reason I did that was you need to get to it. A lot of us just take too long, especially when we're typing emails. It's like blah, 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 blah. Nobody's got time. You've got to make that impression very quickly.
Totally. And I heard this thing yesterday. So I listened to a podcast on my way home from work yesterday, and it was so interesting. The woman was saying that we often sort of hate our niche statement or that really like, what is it I do? Like, for instance, I would sort of not love that my branding is partially about being a brand person. I would much rather talk about style and soul alignment. But most people are like, that's not really a problem I need solved, right? Like, so part of branding too is being realistic about what is it people really need. And sometimes we have to start with what makes sense, and then the deeper work reveals itself later. So that was a new marketing tip that I got yesterday
Hmm.
that's sitting with me as I think about it. Mhm.
Interesting. Wow. And for me, as I think about it, and this would not be a mission statement, but this would describe not my personal brand, but my company, a marketing company. And I took this from the previous company. I just changed names. That's all I did. Honestly, I put my name on it, which was a mistake. Not a mistake, but I should have done it in the beginning. And somebody said to me, "Why are you not putting your name on it?" So 3 years I did, but I carried over this phrase and I wanted to change it, but I couldn't change it because it seemed to make sense. And it's 2 words: creative results. Because what do you want? People want results, and I'm creative. At least I think I am. So that's the
Yes, you
two.
are.
I can't think of any other way to describe it. And shorter is better. Get right to the point. And that's where I came up with that. But I think also with branding too, it's defining who your customer is. Who is that? Who are we talking to? Who's the demographic, right?
Totally. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think knowing our niche, right, we have to know ourselves. It's sort of like do the archaeology dig with yourself. But the sweet spot in branding is where we meet the needs of our target audience. And part of how I do that, I'm curious how you do, Steve, is, other people are already serving your target audience, right? Somewhere out there, someone's serving your target audience. So
Without
you
a doubt.
can always do a little diving into what they do, but also just being really curious about what is it about me and my own journey. When I work with people, I talk about gathering their medicine. It's a combination of the skills you've developed over your lifetime and all you've done. It's the life experiences you've overcome, it's your values, it's your mission, right? Like it's this combination of things. That's why I call it gathering your medicine because it sits in different pockets.
Hmm.
That is what makes you unique and gives you something unique to serve to that audience who wants help with something. That's my 2 cents.
You're unique in that you help in many different ways, where there are some companies or some people, personal brands, that there's one specific thing that they go after. Let's say you're the insurance guy. Well, I get you better rates. Okay. And top quality insurance, but better rates. Kind of cut and dry. You're a little more detailed because it's personal branding. It can be energy healing. There's many different, I like to call them tools in your, cabinet, where if you open the door up, or as a doctor, hey, we got some medicine here, you have different things for what people need. So it's a little different for you in terms of what you offer.
Yeah, I would agree that it's much more broad based and it's individualized. I mean, everyone needs something different. One person I worked with wanted to write a book, and we spent 3 months sort of excavating for what her book was going to be about. And in the coaching, she found all the themes, all the details of how she would do it, and even some props that were going to go with the book. So, yeah, it can be very different and very
Hmm.
individualized. Yeah,
You are in one major regard is that you predominantly work with women.
I do.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that is different right there.
Right? Yeah. Well, and that sort of happened not by choice, but it's who keeps coming to the work. And I think if I were to just go on a short tangent, I
Hmm.
think women are being called to be more visible in the world right now than maybe previously has been the norm. And we're just going through a transformation as a humanity. And so I think more women are sort of figuring out, how do I fit in this, and how do I be my most authentic self in the middle of this very strange whatever it is we're going through.
Yeah, and finding their voice. You help them
Exactly.
find their voice. And kind of what we're talking about now in terms of branding, where it's inside them, but you are fantastic in bringing it out of them.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really my favorite kind of work. Hmm.
Do you find a lot of people, we digress a little bit from branding for a moment, but I think it's tied in. Do you find that there's a lack of confidence for many people that you work with?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, Steve. I think a lack of confidence in who they truly are. I think it's less about confidence in oh, well, a few things come to mind. I feel like saying both of them separately. Number one, I'm an introvert in a very extroverted world. Let's start there.
Is that
So
you?
people, Yeah, I'm an introvert, totally. And so people might say, oh, she's not confident. I am, but I'm confidently quiet.
Okay. All right.
So I think partially there is a bit of a cultural bias toward the extrovert. I'm just going to say it out loud for all the introverts out there. So we tend to look for that as confidence. But there are different forms of confidence. And if you read the book Quiet, which is a fantastic book about the power of being an introvert, several of our presidents were introverts, like Abraham Lincoln.
Hmm.
Hardly said two words, but when he did, it really mattered. So, number one, I wanted to just put that disclaimer out there because here we are on radio and it's important to do. But number two, I think as
I
it
would have
relates,
never, by the way, I'm going to cut you off right there. And with all respect,
yeah,
I would have never thought that. So even if you didn't say it, it would have been, it would have been fine, and perception is reality. So
right.
let's go back to the brand. Looking at your brand, looking at you now, speaking with you now, my perception, and that's my reality, and I'm sure everybody else is going to agree that we would never think you're an introvert. Never,
Right.
never even think that. And that's the power of branding right there.
Yeah, right. Thank you. And lots of work over the years to become more confident. But I want to answer your confidence question. It's the confidence in self and the willingness. I also think we often learn when we were young, right, that this thing about you is not quite right. So then we spend the rest of our adult years covering it up, hiding it. And the confidence comes literally from doing the opposite. Just be quirky. I tell my clients all the time, be quirky, make a mistake on your video, do the thing that would terrify you so people can see the fullness of who you really are. That's the distinguisher when I think about confidence. It's both being polished and put together, but also super duper human.
Yeah, be real, be authentic. It's funny you should say that because so many of us are so concerned about being perfect and like doing a bit guilty as charged. My gosh, I used to shoot videos right in this area and do like 25 takes. It's like, nah, I can make it a little bit better. I could do this, I could do that. I'm like, what are you doing that for? Because you're the only one that can see the difference between the different videos. You'll pick one little thing. Your eye looked here, you did this, you did that. Nobody else knows. Nobody cares. Hit it up in one take, two if you want, and you're good to go. And those usually, those first takes are usually the best ones anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're in that raw, authentic place, right? When we're first doing it, and then we get too rehearsed and we lose some of the coolness of it. And yeah, so the second permission I want to give everyone listening is stop trying so hard to get it all right.
Yeah.
You, imperfect you, is fabulous, right?
100%. I have a friend, her name is Tina. Met her not too long ago, and we'll go through life and talk about things or whatever. Situations will come up, and I'm like, don't OTT. And OTT means overthinking Tina.
I love it.
Because sometimes, and like all of us, we'll overthink it. I'll do the same exact thing, but sometimes you don't have to overthink it. If you approach it with passion, it's all there. Just let this come out no matter what you do, whether you're doing a video podcast, you're talking to a client, just be you, be real, be honest, be genuine. You're 75% there. It's
Right.
there. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest here that I lacked a lot of confidence in the past. I was bullied as a kid, big pudgy guy. And I do regret not just bringing it on. What was I ever worried about? I think a lot of it too is if you could speak to your younger self, as an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old, what would you tell yourself? I think I would tell myself, don't worry about what people think. Don't ever.
Right.
Yeah. Especially strangers. If you have to deliver something in a room of people you don't even know, what do you care? You might probably not going to see 90% of them.
Never again.
Right, right. But we overthink it a lot of times, right?
We do. And I appreciate you sharing that you were bullied as a child. So was I.
Oh, wow.
I think it gave us a lot of really great skills, though, right? We know how to read people. We know how to blow things off. We learned some skills from that, nonetheless.
Well, one of the things is kind of connected to what you said before, Theresa, in that we all have a story. So, that's your story, that's my story, and your brand tells a story. Maybe not the long version, but it tells a
Right?
story.
Yeah, right. Like I wouldn't need to return to my authentic self if I had never lost it because I was bullied. So I guess that's just setting me up for the work I was meant to do.
Yeah. Well, I believe there's a reason for being, and sometimes you have to do that to do this. Great talk today. We're out of time. I don't know how that happened. I'm like, wait, we could talk about this. We could do this. We could do that. The way you work with somebody, whether it's in branding, whether it's in coaching, consulting, energy healing, we've just like skimmed that before. I have to tell you, and I'm always very honest about a lot of things here, everything, but there's nobody that combines everything that you do. I don't know anybody that is coaching, consulting, brand, personal styling with the energy healing. That's like, it's all right there. It's like a full 360.
It is a full 360. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really pleased to be at this point of integration in my life where I can bring all the best of what I do into one way of working with people. It's a delight.
How do you work with people? How does it go?
How does it go? Well, first we talk about the rules of the universe and then we throw them all out. So anyway, what I'll say real quickly about how I work with people is it's individualized. So really getting to know you, what you're dreaming of in your life, and what's holding you back, and then finding the pathway. I often start with style again because it's such a simple way to get to know the deeper you. When you can, you mentioned it last week, Steve, when people start trying on clothes that really resonate with them, you start to see the deeper them. And it's a fun, casual way to get to know that, but then doing weekly or every other week work to really start making new choices, start working through limiting beliefs, start clearing the energy of old habits and patterns that have maybe been passed down to you that aren't serving your most fulfilling life.
I just thought of a word, and for me, it describes you in a lot of ways. Empowering. You are empowering. And that goes back to with the style. When you identify somebody's style, you've already built up their confidence right there. So it's like the planes, it's not in the hangar, it's on the runway ready to take off.
I love that. Great analogy.
I don't get many of those often, so take it when you get it. It is yourdeepercalling.com. Yourdeepercalling.com. Start the conversation. Reach out to Theresa. It was fantastic talking with you today.
You as well, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward next time we talk.
All right.
Thank you. And we're going to come right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.